Okay, Lee, in England, did you ever see The Thing, the original Thing?
No.
Oh, come over here. Right here is the prop. It's the hand that was cut off in the movie. It's right over there. And that's the prop that was used. It's a black and white film. I think it was filmed in 1950 something.
51.
51? And James Arness, that was one of his first films. He played the monster.
Is that from the Gremlins?
It's from Gremlins 2.
Yeah, the second Gremlins. I saw that with Dick Miller and Warner Brothers producers and Brinky Stevens before it was released.
That's Brink Stevens.
Brink Stevens, yeah.
Even though I think I
I
like
always say
Brinky
Brinky.
better.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Rick Baker did helped out with the Gremlins in that film, making it and casting it.
No, Rick Baker gave this to Forrest.
Did he? That's a good prop. How far does the bottom part go? Do we just walk through here?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
You
sound like you know your onions, so you'll put it in a little more.
the aisle to get coffee.
Oh, great.
The final three who stuck it out, and all it was only 62 minutes. It seemed like 8 hours. It was just an abomination. But really, the book is so grand. All you have to do is number it: scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and film it. With a great director. And then they say there's this slam, the story of the man that comes after man with 2 hearts and a super. It's a. If you've never read Slam, why you go to the University of California, woke up to the fact that there were still some of the bad men from the Wild West. And they decided they better get their stories before they were gone. Well, they were frustrated because they found that most of them were illiterate. And they were going to give up on the project till somebody said, well, wait a minute, we have the tool nowadays, the tape recorder, let them mumble on, we'll take care of the grammar, spelling, and so on. Well, after they covered all of the bad men they could find, they went to even worse men. They went to Ray Bradbury, and to A.E. Van Vogt, and to Forrest J. Ackerman. And when they came to me, although 25 years ago I hadn't yet been to Transylvania or touched down the big toe in China or been in Michael Jackson's Thriller or hadn't talked to Lindsay. I gotta get this straight now, whether it's Duncan or Dunlap, yes, Dunlap, okay. But still, so much had happened in my life, and I felt there must be systematic about it. Sure, something important now. So I said, okay, I'll go through the alphabet. A is for Asimov, reading his story on the train in 1939, and then a couple of days before I met him at the First World Convention, and eventually I'll get up to Z for George Zucco or Roger Zelazny. Well, mind you, 25 years ago, after 34 hours of dictation and 2 million words, I wasn't through with these. I'll force myself. My mother lived here in my home till she was 94, and her baby sister said she was 92, and one relative made it within 4 weeks, I believe, of a punch bridge. I'll force myself. I had 400 friends at banquet for me to build more than 5 years ago on my 70th.
This is the prop that was used in a silent movie classic, Metropolis.
Sisters are coming over from...
There was also a remake of it.
Well, I hope so.
Ah, come in here, Lee. Where's Katie at?
Just behind these.
See these? Those are the actual props used in movies, to make them move.
They make them look really big.
Yeah, and they animate them. This one was done in a silent film called The Lost World. Of course, all the foam latex and everything is already deteriorated from it, but that was one of the brontosaurus. And it's unbelievable. much stuff. I don't believe this. This mask was in the movie Fright Night.
Which one's that?
That one right there. If you you know what's his name? Roddy McDowell played that Peter Vincent, the horror host. Well, that was in his house whenever those kids went over to him to talk to him that their neighbor was a vampire. He had that prop inside of his house. That's a collector's item mask. It's done really well. This is Dick Smith's face that he made out of basically wax and everything for the movie Dorian Gray, and that's one of the rotting effects that later stages of everything. Some fantastic masks. Think James would like this?
Yeah.
Too bad, huh?
Yeah.
See what you missed? This is fantastic. I mean, that is an original Don Post Studios mask right there. And they don't make these anymore, but that is one of the best looking masks. Don Post back in the old days made the best looking masks. Ah, it's just fantastic. But nowadays, his son took over the business, and he this was also King Kong, the dinosaurs in King Kong. That was one of the dinosaurs in King Kong right up there, the time where King Kong fought it. Fantastic, huh?
Some collection.
Oh, it's a great collection.
Lifetime achievement.
Oh yeah. And this is Lon Chaney, the silent star. This is his makeup kit. He's the one that played the original Phantom of the Opera. Played in London After Midnight. Remember that face right there? Teeth by Chaney. Huh. So that's what those teeth look like. Huh. And the hat worn by Lon Chaney in London After Midnight. That's just fantastic. Oh, this is just too good to be true. Just a little wooden box was his
Is that
makeup
from
kit.
War of the Worlds?
Yeah, it's a War of the Worlds one. Huh.
That's small.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's probably a model of War of the Worlds. This is probably the prop that was used from, it came from beneath the sea. It's the clock tower in San Francisco, and that's probably one of the barges, too, that they used for that film. The piers. And the octopus attacked this clock tower and destroyed it. And this is from Flying Saucers, Earth versus the Flying Saucers. I have that film. And it was done by Ray Harryhausen. And it was really great when the Flying Saucers crashed into Washington, D.C. buildings. It was fantastic. Who's wore those shoes before? There's a Freddy Krueger live casting down here. Looks like Freddy Krueger. What a collection, huh?
Okay.
Now you know why he's very well known, huh?
Very bland.
What's a real disappointment to me is that I hope so that
And then he has original books, magazines that just go on and on and on. Yeah, this is all his book collection. Books as far as the eye can see. Oh, there's a painting of Christopher Lee. That's great. Dracula's Guest, written by presents Dracula's Guest. The Horror Hall of Fame.
Are you serious?
Yes, that's me. A flash in the pan.
Oh, well, next time it's on, I gotta freeze frame it. That's funny. Oh, that's great. No, I mean, I'm mean, I've lined up interviews with Rick Baker and with William Everson, who's also my teacher.
Saw him just 2 weeks ago in Baltimore.
It's from Curse of the
And I
Demon.
have letters of spoken with the family actually. Who was it? Gary Cheney now who's in charge of it?
So many.
Other
Well, so many Cheneys, third generation, fourth, and so on. Have you spoken with Phil Riley?
No, I haven't spoken with Mike. I know about him, of course, but I haven't spoken with him. But I'm in constant touch with John Marsalis and Michael Blake, who are doing the book. So they're like acting as a lot of technical consultants.
Count your good teeth.
Welcome along here.
Golly. I think he's gonna get Lon Chaney.
Okay, Darren. Down here, there's his teeth and his hat.
What was his teeth made out of?
They look like enamel to me.
Really?
Those are the teeth he had to put in?
Yeah.
I'm wearing my sunglasses for inside. Very good, Karen. What a shame. I got stills up the wazoo, but...
Okay.
Lon Chaney. Got him under control?
I hope
Not Forrest Kaufman, but... Oh, yeah. That was from... That's from Gorgo, isn't it?
No, it's called Geophagus the Earth Eater. Uh-oh, what? Help me. Oh, I forgot about the last group that came down here. I'm not going in there. You can go in there if you want to.
Did you see this?
This is wild.
There's two right here. Somebody named them.
It doesn't look like he made it out.
Oh, I knew I should have paid the electric bill. Well, the reason I bought this place, I found this was decorated in early Halloween. I said, oh, that's my kind of basement.
Yeah. So how many visitors do you get per week or day?
Well, I once...
I'm sorry, no problem?
No problem. There were 185 people at the first World Science Fiction Convention. One night we had 186 people here in the house. But I try to trend Saturdays to have people come to an open house. Maybe 15, 25. We had 42 turn up several months ago.
we watched the Horror Hall of Fame. I showed Lee the part where Rick Baker was introducing him and Steven Spielberg. Let him watch that. He's kind of a little bit young to remember Famous Monsters, but he has a friend over in England that's about my age, and he can remember, and he knows who you were. So,
well, on October 5th, they're going to film the second annual, and they've come here to the house and done a portion on me since I won't be in town. They'll drop it in filmed.
yeah, you got a standing ovation.
Yes, and actually more than you saw. It was kind of strange. They told me to limit my talking time, I think, to something like 2.5 minutes, and I got a 2-minute standing ovation. So I say they didn't show the whole thing, but so I had 30 seconds left, and I had to throw away most everything I had in mind saying.
I can remember when you first had the first pictures of Rick Baker doing a home video with some of his makeup, and then now he's one of the biggest makeup stars up here. It's pretty interesting.
Although it has nothing to do with general decor, but over here, folks, 1859 Abraham Lincoln sat in that chair. It was photographed by my maternal great-grandfather, who was one of the first 2 daguerreotypists in America.
Wow. So Abraham Lincoln sat in that.
Yep.
Very interesting.
And that teenage girl, Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, never been established whether Frankenstein wrote back, but anyway, she wrote Frankenstein, and there's her signature. And this leaf I brought back from the place where she wrote Frankenstein, and this one I just brought back from her tomb.
Now you went to the Castle Dracula in...
Yes, I did, in Transylvania.
Now, did you bring back the dirt that they were selling the pendants in?
No, because I already had some.
Well, so you have the very first novel of Dracula signed by Bela Lugosi, too.
Yeah, you can see that right here in the next room.
That's quite a... Did you know that a guy in New York City had a ring ripped off of him, and it was Veled Tapes, or what's his name, the original Dracula, the real Dracula? It was actually his ring. It was stolen.
Vlad the Impaler?
Yeah.
Oh, here, this is signed, this first edition of Dracula, signed by Bram Stoker, and then Bela Lugosi, and Christopher Lee, and Vincent Price, and Vampira, and just about everybody who was ever involved with it. And then Elsa Lanchester made that little caricature of herself.
So how is Vincent doing?
Well, 2 days after his 80th birthday, his wife died, and that was a dreadful blow to him. And he'd been very down. He'd say things to me like, well, before long, I think I'll be seeing all of my old friends, and please don't come and ring the doorbell because you wouldn't like what you'd find on the other side, and so on. But I was a little encouraged the other day when they came to film me here for the Horror Hall of Fame. They had been to him, and said he'd kind of seemed to be recovering from the loss of his wife and perking up a bit. And I spoke to his secretary the other day and said he was out in the garden.
Yeah, he's the last of the great one.
When I was growing up, kids like me had to hide this magazine. It had something better than naked girls. It had naked ghouls. Our next honoree is the Hugh Hefner of horror, the publisher of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, Forrest J. Ackerman.
I have only discovered as an adult how influential Famous Monsters of Filmland was.
Wouldn't be surprised if my real interest in movies, serious interest in movies, started with that magazine.
I don't think there's another person on the planet like Forrest Ackerman.
In Horrorwood, California, there lives a man known as the Sultan of Sci-Fi, the Master of Monsters, Dr. Acula.
Where is there the sleep of the vampire? Oh, I bid you welcome. Don't be afraid.
Meet the Acker Monster, known to an entire generation of horror film fans as Uncle Forry, creator and editor of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. A magazine that made mothers cringe and made young boys who dreamt of monsters do anything to get it.
My mother wouldn't let me have them in the house. I saw them at my cousin Scott's house, and I would, read them voraciously, really pour over because it was the only magazine out there that actually told you how it was done.
Other magazines tried to imitate, but none had Forry's touch, his true love of science fiction. From the time the first issue of Famous Monsters hit the stand in 1958, through over 200 issues and beyond, the magazine and its creator became almost as famous as the Famous Monsters themselves.
I get almost daily reinforcement letters from young men now in their 30s or so. They say, "You made my childhood, and I just lived month for month for your magazine." And these kids grew up, one of them was 14 years old, a man who now gets $10 million advances for books he hasn't written yet. But Stephen King sent me his first story when he was 14. And all around me, little boys have grown up and turned out to be John Landis and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Tobe Hooper and John Carpenter and Rick Baker, Monster Maker.
I just recently was looking back through some of my old issues to try to find some pictures I needed for reference for a makeup I was going to do, and it really brings back a funny feeling of the whole time of my life when I had these magazines memorized. I knew what was on each page in each issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland.
And it took the subject seriously. I mean, it was funny, and it had a lot of puns in it, and it was written for an 11-year-old, which was great. But also it had a tremendous amount of history in it. I mean, he legitimized a very sort of illegitimate kind of movie making that was not taken seriously by anybody but the people who did it. And I think that we all owe him a lot.
Forrest is important, and he's important historically. He's, from the time he was a kid with those other weird kids, Ray Harryhausen and Ray Bradbury, they had a very distinct vision of an appreciation of fantasy, not just as pulp, but as a genuine literary or cinematic art form.
I've got the president on the electroscan.
John Landis has so much respect for Forrest Ackerman that he made him the President of the United States.
Come in, men of Moon Rocket 1.
In his film, Amazon Women on the Moon.
We read you, Mr. President.
This is a proud day for all Americans.
He did a much better job than the current president.
Forry's a natural. In fact, he's been in lots of films. It's sort of a payback for his inspiration of a generation and for being the ultimate science fiction fanatic.
They're running low on liners. You think you can catch up?
Don't worry. I'm keeping our spacemen happy, getting things squared away.
While movie makers like Landis work to preserve Forry forever on film, he has continued to chronicle the history of horror films, even though Famous Monsters of Filmland is long gone. In the Acker Mansion, where the Acker Monster lives, is the greatest collection of monster, sci-fi, and horror movie memorabilia ever amassed.
In 1926, when I was 9 years old, the science fiction magazine jumped off the newsstand, grabbed hold of me, and said, "Take me home, little boy, you will love me." From there it grew. 3 years after that, my mother was quite concerned. She said, "Son, do you realize how many of these magazines you have?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, I just counted them. You have 27. How can you imagine why by the time you're a grown man, you might have 100.
At last count, Forrest J. Ackerman had 40,000 books, over 100,000 movie stills, hundreds of posters and autographs, and over 600 props, like the famous Dracula ring given him by his friend Bela Lugosi, and the Mummy's ring, a gift from Boris Karloff.
He's collected everything that ever came his way. I mean, if it was so much as a napkin that Boris Karloff used at a bar. And he's got it all in his house. And not only that, he lets people see it. I mean, he has tours, and he lets kids who rob him blind and look at the stuff, you know. I mean, he's a big kid. He's the biggest kid that I ever met. And I hope he always will be.
Here's lurking at you, babe.
present the award to Uncle Forry, Rick Baker, Joe Dante, and John Landis.
Why we're behind the camera. Nothing could give us greater pleasure than to present this award tonight to somebody who's meant a lot to us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Forrest J. Ackerman.
These are three little lambs that I led astray. I don't know if you're really able to see this quite clearly. It seems to be the Grim Reaper. I'm wondering if he has a relative called Jack the Reaper. I guess without a pun, you wouldn't have believed it was me. Well, we have the Oscars, the Emmys, and the Grammys. And it appears to me that I probably just received the first Grimmy. So, hooray for Hollywood.
And this character I created, Vampirella, in 1969, is Talk Now Showtime, making a movie out of it.
I saw Vampirella magazine, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they're doing all the reprints, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're doing all the reprints from EC Comics, too.
Mm-hmm.
And buying those, you probably have the originals, though. Yeah, some really good masks. It's just too bad Don Post, he made such great masks, and now they just don't have the quality they used to be. Distortion's Unlimited, it's in the guy that makes those masks.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in Katie's hometown. She said he used to make those in his garage, and now he's just selling them worldwide. We visited his factory over there in Greeley, Colorado. It's quite interesting.
Well, if there's anything about Cheney, this young lady sure does spot it, huh? Yeah. This, honey, is a $6,000.
He's a bit taller than you, Lee.
Just a bit. Just a little bit.
That's marvelous film.
Yeah.
I'd like to find a really fabulous print.
It looks like it was
that film.
Hellraiser prop.
You have to pry it out.
Vampirella. Let's see, what was it? I was going to ask you.
A little house guest in there from the Outer Limits. That's from a segment called Don't Open Till Doomsday.
Oh, I've seen pictures of that. I think in your booklet magazine.
Oh, uh-huh. And that's a self-portrait of the great-grandfather who photographed Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do they still have the Dracula's castle, like at Universal Studios? I remember one time reading about that in a magazine. I think it was just a one-time deal during Halloween. I gotta look at his London After Midnight to see how his is painted so I compare it. Well, actually, I was doing mine pretty well close to that. It's pretty good. Lon Chaney. He's the greatest. That's what he wore.
Don't be afraid. I never drink that Hollywood and wine. Listen to them. Children of the night, what music they make.
Very good. That's what you wore during the Horror Hall of Fame, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Lanchell on stage do that.
Well, now if you want to come upstairs, a little more to be seen.
No. It's such a lovely fantasy of mine being fulfilled. Nice, have a seat.
It's a beautiful view.
Hollywood movie stars. See the lights getting up here.
I remember all these stills from your book. Oh.
It's the guest room. I have a young man from Bulgaria staying here. This morning, husband and wife from Tokyo just left.
Oh, see, this is one of the guest rooms then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they'd have pleasant nightmares in here. So, if anything ever happened to you, do you have this wheeled over to some museum or anything? Or?
12 years ago, realizing probably I won't make it into Guinness Book of World Records as being the first immortal human being, I thought, well, I don't want to be lying on my deathbed and worrying, wondering what's to become of it all. So I got in touch with the mayor who came over here, and we were seeing that very night on television, shaking hands, and I'd offered to walk away from my whole life, let them come and wrap it all up and empty it out, and as long as they could show me the empty shelves and let me be the curator while I was around. Well, 5 years went by and the city just couldn't manage to find any place to put it, and I got to be on the wrong side of senior citizenship in the meantime and took it away from the city. Then the city of Monterey sent 4 businessmen down. They were very enthusiastic. They said they attract 1,700,000 people a year because they have a wonderful oceanarium, and they felt if they had my whole collection that nobody would dare set foot in America without coming to Monterey. So we're all set to do it that way, but Mother Nature pulled the rug out from under all of us. They got back ready to build a museum. They found they were within 5% of zeroing out on their water table. So they put a 10-year moratorium on any new buildings because they wouldn't have the water. Then it went from no water to more water than I ever dreamed of, the Queen Mary, which is docked about an hour's drive from here. And for 6 months they were dangling the big carrot in front of my nose. Frankly, if I were a vegetarian, I could have survived on the giant carrots that have been dangling in front of my nose for 12 years. Well, this has gone on and on and on.
Well, Dracula, you look like a big chicken.
That's because I always have my cape on.
Sean's coming over for lunch.
Oh, all right.
He's bringing his red-headed secretary.
Uh-huh. Oh, what time will they be here? Any moment?
That's always good. Secretary runs off on you.
So what happened?
Well, I say 12 years have gone by. The city of Cleveland got in the act. They told me they had a 12-story empty building, and the bottom floor was going to be for Superman. How would I like the next 11 floors for myself? And they came out here to see if I could really fill it up, and they said, oh, gee, that's not enough room. No, we have an empty post office, 125,000 square feet. But there's been talk of an empty castle back east, and right here in town, the Capitol Record Building, they're talk about emptying it all out and turning it into a museum, and take parts of my collection, put it on trains, and send it out around the country to enthuse people to come and see it all. Anyway, it's been going on and on and on and on. But at last, Germany, they flew me over to Berlin about 6-8 months ago, and they've spent $40 million buying a major hotel that they're going to empty out and turn into a world-class movie museum. And in the midst of it all, they've sent me option money, and they're coming here for my 75th birthday in November, bringing more money. And bit by bit, they're going to move all of the movie material. I'll still leave all the books and magazines and paintings and so on, but at least the motion picture portion of it will go to Berlin. Now everybody's screaming, you know, can't you keep it in America? Haven't I tried for 12 years?
Yeah. So what do you...
know who that Napoleon is?
Peter Lorre.
That's right.
Yeah.
Have anything on Conrad Veidt?
Yes.
Man,
Suggest we all go out to lunch, then we come back where you can look at all the Veidt stills. Had a kind of a disappointing situation. Peter Lorre's first wife and last love was dear Celia Lovsky, who played Lon Chaney's mother in The Man of a Thousand Faces. And she knew Conrad Veidt's widow very well. And when I was going back to New York, she gave me the name and phone number and said, well, you know, call her up, sure she'll be happy to meet you. Well, I took along all my photos of Conrad Veidt. I called her up and used Celia Lovsky's name as an introduction and started to say, you know, sometime at your convenience you'd care to see. She said, I don't care to know anything about Connie before he married me.
Interesting attitude.
Do you know exactly how many books you have?
About 50,000.
Oh my lord.
How many stills?
125,000. Well, aren't you going to ask me if I've read all my books?
People always ask me that when I take a look at my collection.
Well, I have an easy answer. I say I've read every last word in my collection. When I get a new book, I turn to the last page and read the last words.
All right.
Oh, no.
I walked into that one. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I miss your magazine.
Yeah, have you seen my new one, Monsterama?
Huh. Is it?
Kind of a revival of famous monsters. Just a minute, I'll get the Lugosi ring for you to see.
Oh, yeah.
You'll respond to my voice and no other voice. Oh, God, I never got to the second part, how I bring them out of the... read that chapter.
Yeah. The bat above it. Very nice. So Bela Lugosi gave you that, right?
No, he didn't give it to me. There was a young chap named Richard Sheffield, who, when he was about 15, had never even seen a Lugosi film. And he saw one. He was so turned on, he went home and stood in front of the mirror and put the whammy on himself and trying to talk like Bela. Well, then he found that Lugosi, kind of old and by the world forgotten, was living alone in an apartment in the boy's neighborhood. Well, he didn't have the nerve to go ring Dracula's doorbell, so he got his aunt to kind of fake it, call up and ask if she could interview Lugosi. And once he said okay, she said, oh, can I bring my nephew along? Well, when the boy saw that Bela didn't bite and that he could use all the help he could get, he just became devoted to him the last 3 years of his life, would go to the store for him and get his shoes resoled and drive him around. And in fullness of time, he introduced him to me. And before he died, Bela gave the boy this cape and the ring and a cane and all sorts of things, which Dick treasured. But after Lugosi died, he kind of realized, well, gee, nobody knew him. You know, here he had all these goodies, and they were just sort of lost to the world, whereas they take me off the shelf and dust me off every Halloween, put me on TV. And So we thought it'd make more sense and more people would see and enjoy these Lugosi things if I had them.
Yeah, great. You see that again. Just look at it without the camera. Yeah, that's nice. It's one of your prized possessions, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're getting ready to have some more company coming over, aren't you?
You know the book called Hollywood Babylon? Author of that, Kenneth Anger's just been a house guest here for a couple of weeks. I don't know, want to make a comment in the guest book? I'm saying never gave him.
For me, never key.
4E, 4E, 4E.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
40.
How did it feel after all you've been through?
Well, it just feels wonderful to still be here, considering earlier in the year I nearly died twice. But now I feel like I'm on my way to my 87th and 88th and 90th, and I'll still be here for my 100th birthday.
Well, I plan to try to be at every one of your birthday parties if I'm invited, and I hope to be there at every one of them. One of the big highlights of this birthday party is when John Landis and your attorney and you sat down because of a great triumph over the court case with Ray Ferry, of course. If I know that he's filing bankruptcy, and then that'll get tied up. And I think your appraisal was what, $513,000? And if something were to happen to you and that money was tied into you and your estate, do you have plans for that money to go somewhere, to a charity or a family?
Well, I have about, forget the figure, something like 27 individuals in my life who have favored me in one way or another. And I have a list of these individuals, and I've arranged with my lawyer that this person should get 1.5%. Take all the money and everything, whatever I'm worth at the end of my life, and add it all up and get one lump sum. And then one fan will get 0.5% of that, and another get a full percent, and some may get 2.5%. And I know after I'm gone, everybody will hate me because they'll check it. You got 2.5%. He only gave me 1%, you know, and oh, I only got 0.5%. Oh.
Do you still have plans for that 4A robot to introduce people into your house? I remember at one time you was thinking about having that at the Ackerman mansion, the original one.
When I say whatever I'm worth will be divided among, I think about 27 of my favorite fans, 127 of my favorite fans.
Oh, great. We sadly missed you at the last year's Monster Bash. And because of the things that happened to you from your 85th birthday, and we expected you at the Monster Bash, and then this all happened to you. Do you have plans on attending any more conventions at all?
Well, in the immediate future, any conventions that I attend, I have to have 24-hour-a-day nurses, so they would have to come with me on the plane flight and be in a hotel room right next to me. I don't know how we can work that out, whether one of these nurses can leave L.A. for 4 or 5 days or not.
That's probably true. I know Ron Adams, whenever I told him you were doing really well and go along with it, he said he'd like to have you for the next year's Monster Bash, but you know, that's just up to you and whether you felt like it. It'd be great to see you there. From the last Monster Bash when you missed it, we signed this gigantic gigantic get well card. And for everybody from the bash signed it. Did you get that?
Yes,
did you enjoy
sure
that?
Did.
Okay, great. And I noticed from coming from the top of the hill, it was just on Glendower Avenue. I don't see how people drive up on that hill, but I noticed you got your Forrest from Horror Wood sign outside of this house.
Yes.
Which I was really happy to see that because I saw it missing when I was up there. And
the man that bought my former Ackerman is going to keep the name Ackerman and have it recorded nationally, so it'll be a site that anyone interested can see where I used to live.
Mm-hmm. So you decorated this house, which I plan on taking a lot of video footage of it. Looks like that you really took basically the best of the collection.
That's true.
And just put it in a smaller place. It's very comfortable for you to get around.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best thing.
I started out in a wheelchair, graduated to a walker, graduated to a cane, and as you saw at my party the other day, I didn't even have a cane.
No, you were walking around getting along just fine. I guess a lot of the contributes and the best help that you've received is from Joe Moe, right?
Mm.
He's really kind of helped get everything organized for you. And so we've got a lot of congratulations to him for that. And we'll go around your new Ackerman and videotape some of the stuff so that we can get it recorded. And I think you've done it's been a fantastic job. There's just so many beautiful things here. Do you have any last words to fans out there?
Oh, just stick with me, fans. You're all invited to my 100th birthday, but may have to hold it in the Hollywood Bowl. There'll be so many.
And you can still be reached at the Sci-Fi Biz?
That's right.
At AmericaOnline.com, correct?
That's right.
Do you have help people reading that, or do you read that yourself?
They generally read it to me.
Okay. All right, so fans can still reach you from that site, and of course the same number, the 66 Moon Fan, is still available, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you're beginning to write for a magazine again.
Yes, I'll be writing for cult movies and occasionally for Scarlet Street.
Scarlet Street once again. Yep, I think Ricky Valley, is it Ricky Valley?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was mentioning that on, we're belong to a website called Monster Maniacs. And he was mentioning that. And it was good to hear that you were back into writing once again. So I'm going to go ahead and take a few trips around your house and just show the people.
Exercise your eyeballs.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. And it's great to see you here, and it's great to see you in good health there for it.
Okay.
You're gonna take a video that's again at the video king.
Open that.
is those rockets. Those we Saturday morning.
Hi, my name is Guy Thorpe, and we're here at the new Forrest Ackerman Mansion on Sunday, November 24th, 2002, and it's great to see Forrest back in action here at his new place. And I attended his 85th birthday party last year. That was quite a gathering, and I've known Forrest since about 1977. I went to his Ackerman Mansion for the first time, and it was my jaw dropped, needless to say. But Forrest meant a lot to me over the years. He's done a great deal for fandom, and of course grew up with Famous Monsters magazine, as millions of other people did. And he's done a lot to keep kids off the streets, get them interested in monsters and sci-fi versus drugs, and he's done a lot for the fans. It's great to have him in a new home, albeit smaller, but he's kept a lot of the original stuff, a lot of the good stuff here. So it's great to be here.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Robert Long, and I'm here at the new Ackerman Mansion, visiting Forrest Ackerman. And basically, I got acquainted with Forrest back in the early 70s. My father would bring home Famous Monster from Filmland magazines, not for me, for him, but I'd still get a chance to look through them. And it's just a love affair of being able to check these things out, because they covered science fiction and horror, and it really got me interested in it. And I went through everything from the model kits to trying to create my own monsters to actually being able to come out here to Hollywood, California, and try to dabble in the film industry. And a lot of this has got to do with the fact that Forrest had a wonderful magazine out there for kids like us when we were growing up, and I was able to attend his 85th anniversary or 85th birthday, which was a great event, and it's great to try to give back a little bit to a man that's given so much to us.
Forrest, he's just a really special man. He has a passion for science fiction and horror that I think we all have in our heart, and he's actually been able to bring it to light. We all have a real respect for him. I just grew up with science fiction, and he's our uncle. He in the last year he's been through a lot, and it's just really wonderful to see him coming back to health. So he looks so much better, and I'm not very good on camera, so that's really all I wanted to say. We love Forrest very much.
And what's your name and where are you from?
Kristen, and I grew up in New Jersey, but I'm living here in Los Angeles now. So, anyway.
Yep, Forrest, he brought up a generation of what we call ourselves, the monster kids.
That's true.
What did he say to you?
Forrest, you brought up a generations of kids we call ourselves the monster kids.
Oh, monster kids.
Yep.
Okay.
Next weekend, Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah. Here, I'm going to go there Saturday evening. I got to work during the day. Carrier. Whoever else wants to go, I'm going to go over in the evening. Burbank.
In more Russian than the Tsar. They say Rasputin underneath the ground is shouting Hacha, 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 Sonia Brown.
Oh, Forrest.
I don't have this voice on my own.
Eating her beef.
We're up.
Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Futuraki wants a seafood, mama. Shrimpers and rice, they're very nice. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Futuraki soup, wants a seafood, mama. Shrimpers and rice, they're very nice.
Hi, I'm Carrie Jackson Thorpe, and I've known Forry for about 10 years, and one of the greatest things he's given us is he's given us a sense of family in the horror and sci-fi community, and a place where we can feel safe. Our parents don't generally understand monsters and sci-fi creatures, but Forry did, and he was like having a wonderful, great uncle, and he's just a great all-around guy, and that's all I'm saying.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ghouls of all ages. Quiet down!
Everybody, may I please have your attention? No. That means you, John Landis. All right. You know, many of us were wondering if we were going to have this particular event. I know it means more than any of us can put into words. That Forry is here for his 86th birthday, having gone through incredible travails. But we all knew that it's not easy to get rid of the most famous monster in the world.
Yeah. Here.
Forrest J. Ackerman, who will be with us a long time. Now, you know he has now seen Metropolis 100 times. And since Forry always said he was going to see Metropolis 100 times before he shuffled off the mortal coil, I think we should have him state today that he now intends to see Metropolis 200. Announcements. Dragon Con, which has an attendance now of 20,000 people, which happens over Labor Day weekend. It used to be the middle of the summer, and I'm heavily involved with Dragon Con, as most of you know, in Atlanta, Georgia every year, is going to initiate a brand new award next year, which will be a little statuette of Maria, the Robotrix from Metropolis, the Futura Award. It's going to have several different categories for multimedia. There's going to be a Forrest J. Ackerman annual award given by Dragon Con for best achievements multimedia in science fiction and fantasy so long as Dragon Con exists, starting 2003. And my last remark, and I'll sit down and we can get back to the champagne.
No, we can't.
Is Paul Bonnell has given Forry like a baker's dozen of his DVD of That Little Monster, which is a film that almost defies description because both Bob Hope and Forrest J. Ackerman are in the same movie, which is obviously impossible except it exists. Forry has these, and certain select lucky people will receive copies of this remarkable achievement. Thank you.
I can't let this moment pass because, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I managed to jot down a few notes on the kayak ride over from the island this morning. Happy birthday, Forry. We're all gathered here today to celebrate your birth, but also to sample this unique cuisine and just sit around and watch you eat. Those of you with aging pets know what I mean. Some of us even brought you little presents today, some new crap. To replace all that old crap you just got rid of. To change your crap from time to time. Anyway, all your old men friends are here to say happy birthday, you old fart. And some of the lovely ladies too. And they're lovelier than we are. And even Jim Warren, whom I spoke with from his posh mansion in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania just last night, reminded me that your birthday is today and tomorrow. And to tell you that as a token of his esteem, only day before yesterday, he had shipped to you direct from Connecticut an exquisite vintage 1952 cherry special neon green finish Rolls Royce windshield. Windshield wiper. Jim also said to tell you very sincerely to try and keep your lunch off your lap today. I can see there's just no point in telling you. So here we are, avoiding the egg rolls and hoping for crispier noodles the next time we get together for such an event. And all of us here today, and I just know I speak for everyone, want you to hold off having another birthday until at least next year, at which time, hopefully, you will either call us together at Taco Bell or at least provide us with an antidote for high sodium and MSG. Happy birthday, Hank. Oh, sorry, I guess I wrote this speech for somebody else. Happy birthday.
It was just pointed out to me I forgot the toast. I never toasted him.
Wait,
he's taking a
wait till everyone's finished.
All right.
I bet there's at least 3 more.
All right. Okay, I'll wait.
I'm 2 of them. Forry, I want to take a moment. I want to take a moment to, at this 86th birthday, to point out some other people. First of all, part of this toast I would like to be to Wendy Ackerman, who's sorely missed, and I'm sure is completely thrilled and probably a little pissed off that you're here today. I also want to thank J.C. Applebaum for his stallion attorney. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But I do want to say that I was very distressed. I visited for a year ago in the hospital. I was like convinced, okay, well this time's finally it. He looks terrible. I was depressed. Then makes a miraculous recovery, comes out, and then he decides, it's like, okay, my life's going along fine. I'll sue Ray Ferry and fuck everything up. He gets in deep financial difficulty. Things are going insane. He's got to sell the Ackerman. He gets sick again. He goes back in the hospital. I say, Forry, I'm getting tired of this. Are you going to die this time? What the fuck? It's like, Forry, you look terrible. And then I am completely thrilled to say that not only is he hale and hearty, but through Ms. Applebaum and old friends like Ray Bradbury and other people, and Joe Moe, I have to mention, he is in the mini mansion. He's got help. He's in pretty good shape financially, and I'm thrilled to say that. He has good friends. Ray Bradbury was here earlier. I'm sorry I missed him. Who else did I mention? Ann Robinson, the great Ann Robinson, George Clayton Johnson. Emily, people will show up year after year because they still can't believe you're still here. And they always think there's someone older than me. But Forry, I've known you for a long time, and I love you, and people in this room either really like mediocre Chinese food or they love it. And I think it's the latter. And really, from the bottom of my heart, happy birthday. Now you can drink.
Wait, before we do the toast, as you know, the Toastmaster at many of our previous events is here today. And
Walt Doherty's here!
The only reason I'm doing this is he forgot to bring the hand puppet, little Forry. So ladies and gentlemen, here's little Forry without the hand puppet.
This is little Forry.
That's actually Brad Lineweaver.
Any more?
Well, Forry, did you drink some champagne today? It was the carbonade of Dr. Caligari. Forry always says if I get better at my impression of him, when he dies, they're going to bury me. And Forrest's seated next to J.C. Ample Bum. Last year at the banquet, I told you that John Landis was doing his first film for Disney, their remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Darn those pods! Well, now he actually shot it, and they're in post-production. Just smile a lot. Now they're going to let him do his pet project about the first Jewish space station. Schmear. How's that, John?
Can I interrupt for 1 second to say?
Yes, John.
To say that
Please.
Forrest, talking about death, Forrest last year in the hospital, when faced with death for real, they were talking about having an open coffin. Do you remember this, Forrest, at your funeral? And he was talking with a rabbi and a priest. And the priest said, well, Mr. Ackerman, if you have an open coffin, people will look down at you and they'll say things, you know. And Forrest said, well, what would you do, Father? And the priest said, well, if I had an open coffin, I just hope people look down at me and say I was a good shepherd to my flock. And he said, what about you, Rabbi? And the rabbi said, if I have an open coffin, I want people to look down at me and say he was a good man. And they said, Mr. Ackerman, you really want an open coffin? And Forrest said, yes, because I want them to look down at me and say, oh my God, he's moving!
When Forrest was in Daniel Freeman Hospital and things were getting really bad, the nurse kind of gravely comes over to me and asks about his religious affiliation. And Forrest's out of it. I knew he was an atheist all of his life, and I thought, now's my chance to pour it on. I told the nurse that he was half Catholic and half Jewish, that he takes a lawyer to confession. Well, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I think you know Miss Applebaum. Anyway, as of April 1st, 1997, I don't drink anymore. So this is Coke. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I still drink, I just use a different name. Anyway, this is our toast to our own 86-year-old irreplaceable Forrest, who, if you're a Forrest, I guess you never really plan on retiring, and I don't know that he is, because he has new books and new projects in the work, but I see him getting vast kicks out of life. I'm condensing his video collection, because he doesn't have room for single title tapes at SP. I'm condensing them down to fewer tapes at the slower speed. So he sits down with an 8-hour tape and has like a Marlene Dietrich festival by himself. Anyway,
Mr. Harris, let's do it.
I don't know any toasts really, so as Curly from the Three Stooges said, roses are red, violets are blue. Turn 86 and woo 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 woo!
All right. Thank you, here we go. Let's do it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Forrest. Happy birthday to you.
Well, last year, my 85th, we inaugurated the annual Forrest Awards. There were 5 given at that time. And my backpack has voted 5 more. Unfortunately, they're not here because the chap who makes them, John Deal, has had 2 operations. But the following individuals will be receiving theirs just as soon as possible. Ron Borst. Ingrid and Joe Hertzer. Sean Fernald. Joe Blasco. And Brian, Anthony, and Company, which includes his wife. As you know, I came close to heeding Prince Sherky's call twice during the beginning of this year, but I'm very glad I survived to have this wonderful party.
We are too.
And if any of you want to come over to the home and carry on, I'll be very glad to see you. This has just been a rehearsal, actually, for my 87th.
This year at the World Fantasy Convention.
She is Pam Kesey.
Yes, and that's yourself.
I had the honor of accepting this award on behalf of Forry. The theme was Gods and Monsters, and it seemed appropriate that the most famous monster of them all should receive this Lifetime Achievement Award on behalf of the World Fantasy Society.
Wait, he's only 86. This gives Carla Lamley something to hope for.
Forry, you've got Lovecraft, you've always wanted him, right in the palm of your hand.
Forry, can I say a word? George Clayton Johnson. But I would like to remark on the fact that probably this group, as well as any other, probably better than any other, knows how important Forrest J. Ackerman is. Media is less than 100 years old, as we know it. Pulp magazines and the expansion of media took place in Forry's childhood. The phonograph and the electric light were brand new when Forry was born. All that we call media today came from those early days. And Forrest J. Ackerman and a handful of people, I think of Julius Schwartz, I think of Shel Dorf here, I think of people who founded these conventions, who set up these fanzines, who established rules of order, who arranged to pass the World Science Fiction Convention on from year to year, from country to country, year after year, while media grew to be the dominant force in our society. I give Forrest J. Ackerman 90% of the credit for this transformation. Science fiction fandom as we know it, nationally and internationally, is an astonishing phenomenon. It's welded people from every country together, and who is there as host, introducer, master of ceremonies, donator? Many of the chairs at the Las Fas were bought by Forry Ackerman in the early days when the building was just being purchased as the most ambitious idea that fans could actually own a building of their own where they could build libraries and where they could establish residency. And year after year, these conventions, I went to over 25 of these San Diego Comic-Cons. An astonishing phenomenon, bringing together the greatest illustrators and magic people from all over the world. Forrest J. Ackerman, I am amazed, baffled, dazzled by your accomplishment, your lifetime, your history. I think that you're an absolutely splendid person. I think that you're going to live in history as one of the great men of our era, and I'm only too thrilled to be here helping you to celebrate this 86 years. You set a standard for every one of us. God Almighty, I got very many few people in this room will accomplish what you've accomplished simply by enduring. God bless you.
We are here at the Son of Famous Monsters World Festival Convention. A tribute to Forrest Ackerman and his amazing magazine.
Famous Monsters of Filmland, the classic horror magazine of our time, was recently saluted with a monster of a convention in Universal City, California. The event was titled Son of Famous Monsters of Filmland because it marks the second gathering to honor the magazine. This convention's man of the hour, or should we say weekend, was the magazine's founder, Forrest Ackerman. Ackerman, whose readers spanned several generations, was frightfully delighted to meet his numerous fans at the con.
They tell me I made their childhood, and they grew up with the magazine. I said, oh, no, you're not supposed to grow up. You know, we started it for 11-and-a-half-year-old kids who wanted to laugh and learn something about monsters and sci-fi and fantasy and so on.
Many of those kids that were influenced by the magazine are now making their own significant contributions to the horror and sci-fi genres. And some, like director John Landis, turned up the con to pay their respects to Ackerman and their favorite childhood reading material.
Famous Monsters was an interesting magazine, especially for a young kid, because it didn't just have articles on actors. It had articles on makeup men, directors, producers, Ray Harryhausen, animators, and so it was more about the actual filmmaking than most magazines.
The guys and ghouls who turned out for this convention were definitely into the subject matter. Some perhaps a little too much. Trust me, this guy has tattoos on parts of his body you don't need to see. And the many celebrities connected with the world of fantasy seem to enjoy meeting their fans.
It's a lot of fun, pleasant. I like people. I might even get to like you.
Well, maybe Al Lewis isn't the best example.
It's special because we're all crazy, and we collect together because the world doesn't care about the things we care about, and if the rest of the world doesn't care, to hell with them.
While you would expect to see famous folks like Ray Bradbury or Ray Harryhausen at this convention, there were also some surprises among the crowd.
Boris Karloff was my favorite actor when I was a kid. I loved the genre, mystery and horror and science fiction, as a lot of kids do. And when I was first started high school, I produced for a short time a horror magazine called Shudder Magazine for the neighborhood kids. And so that was actually my first magazine.
For many, the highlight of the convention was the Famous Monsters of Filmland Museum, which displayed perhaps the greatest collection of fantasy film props and memorabilia ever seen under one roof. Collector Bill Malone showed off some original artifacts from the set of the sci-fi classic Forbidden Planet.
And this is part of the Krell lab as well, which is the what they call a Krell power panel. And then this is like stuff from the spaceship. I think it's interesting here. Let me show you the back of this. You can see the level of work involved. I mean, this would take somebody a long time to make this stuff.
Other unnatural highlights of the museum included this little guy from The Day the Earth Stood Still, original models from King Kong, display busts of some of our favorite fiends, and the original robot from Lost in Space. The Son of Famous Monsters of Filmland convention proved to be a huge hit with fans from as far away as Japan, as well as the celebrities who showed up to do some meeting and greeting. Now let's hope that the son of the Son of Famous Monsters of Filmland convention isn't far behind.
How do you do? Mr. Paul Bunnell feels it would be a little unkind to present this picture without just a word of friendly reassurance. During the making of that little monster, we may have used rather questionable scenes involving a rather small baby. Now, it's very possible that these scenes will disturb you. They may shock you. They might even horrify you. And although what will appear on the screen might seem to have placed our little actor in jeopardy, we would just like to stress that absolutely no babies were injured or placed at risk during the making of this picture. I repeat, no babies were ever injured or placed at risk during the making of this picture. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we've warned you.